A soldier with PTSD is trying to reacclimate to civilian life. But in the midst of this, some shady stuff is going down in her neighborhood, so she decides to take action on her own and become a superhero. Hi everyone, it's Carrie, aka Nerdygirlcreates. Welcome back to my channel. It is Indie Friday. My hair is got a mind of its own today. The weather has been sucky, but it's almost the weekend, and that's all that matters, right? Today we're going to look at Image Comics' Dead Lucky. This is a book by newcomer Melissa Flores with art by French Carlomagno. People want to test my they really do want to test me when it comes to pronunciation. I swear. Well, Dead Lucky is the Dead Lucky is part of the Supermassive universe. Now, if you're not familiar with what the Supermassive universe is, it is a Image's attempt of its own shared universe. Includes the characters of Radiant Black as well as Rogue Sun and now the Dead Lucky. And this story focuses on a soldier who just is back from Afghanistan, and she is having a hard time acclimating back into civilian life. Her hometown is in San Francisco. She comes from Chinatown. She's of mixed background. Her mother is, I think, Latino, and her father is Chinese. And it's an interesting background, but it does not overshadow the story. There's a reason for them explaining it because their area of the neighborhood plays into the plot. But overall, she's having a hard time. She's dealing with PTSD. She's going to her regular therapy appointments at the VA. She's just not happy, but she's also got a secret. And she has been secretly operating as a superpowered vigilante, taking on a gang that is slowly taking over her town. And she is trying to prevent them from doing this. She teams up with a former childhood friend. And overall, let's start first with the art before I get into that. I am all over the place. I know, it's Friday, almost the weekend. But art-wise, French's art is actually really nice. It's really good. It blends in really well to the art you see in other books like Radiant Black and Rogue Sun. This is not the first female-led character, but I think her design stands out more just like Rogue Sun's costume design does. Everybody in Radiant Black seems to have a more uniform style because of, well, if you know anything about Radiant Black, it's not a surprise. But they have just the different colors. I know a lot of people compare them to Power Rangers. I can see it, but I think they still have their own look. This incorporates a lot of the main character's ethnic background, and it's really, really cool to see. I love the colors in the costume. I love the mask design. It's really interesting. It's something you can't forget looking at it. It's not generic. Story-wise, now the story is really interesting. Now, if you have not read Radiant Black or Rogue Sun, you don't need to get into this story. It is a good starter point for anybody. It's not like in Marvel and DC where you got certain stories where you have to read all these books of all these characters just to get the entire plot. They introduce her, they give you a brief background on, what she's been going through. They introduce her family and what they're going through. They introduce her circle. She's got a very limited circle because, with the trauma and everything for being in the military, she hasn't really developed more ties to others. She kind of just falls back on those she had prior to her time in the military. The villains are kind of called the Salvation Gang, and they're kind of like your run-of-the-mill villains, but there's more to them. So they are interesting. It's the beginning of a story, so it's not going to give away too much too soon. It's nice. It does make it, how can I say this? It is, it teases enough to keep you interested for the next volume. It's really interesting to see a character who is dealing with PTSD, who's It doesn't fall into the same kind of category so far like Punisher, where he's more violent about it because after his experiences, then the tragedy of losing his family. This is more about, in my opinion, kind of almost like a Captain America Bucky situation. Like, we're no longer fighting the war, but I still have a need to fight something. So she finds purpose in this hometown battle. But she also knows that doing this could get her arrested, so this is why she goes undercover. And I don't want to reveal too much about her powers or anything like that. I think it would be more interesting for you to find out on your own. There's also a lot of technology involved in this. Her friend is really good at creating stuff for her. He's kind of become like her Q, if you know anything about James Bond. But more kind of like street level. I do wish a little bit more with the Salvation Gang. They're, even though they have like, they're just kind of like giving glimpse of introduction to them. There isn't really much about them that makes them totally stand out from other villains. Again, it's early on in the story. Maybe something changes with the next few volumes. It is really interesting though. And like I said, it keeps you hooked and wanting to go into the next volume. Uh it has a great supporting cast. There's not a lot right now. There's also another group that's the government who's kind of like trying to keep things civil in this area. And they're dealing with both this revelation about the main character and her superhero persona, as well as dealing with the Salvation Gang. So they're kind of caught in the middle, and they're trying to convince people to move out of the town. But because the people have had such a long connection to this town with their history, they're not willing to give it up so easily, even for all the money that's being offered and all the help that is being provided by the government to help them relocate. And it's something I think people can relate to. When you have ties that run really deep to like a home or a town or even a country, a city, whatever, it's understandable you don't want to like leave that if you're very, tied to it. Um it's not for everybody. I know a lot of people who leave. I'm one of them. But it works in like that ethnic background into the plot and the motivation for why this they don't want to leave. It inspires the costume for the main character. It's done right. It's not being pushed as something, oh look, this person's this, but it has nothing really to do with the overall plot. There's no other reason other to say this person is of this background. It's like, okay, that's great, but what's that got to do with the story? This ties in pretty nicely. And I can't wait to see where it goes. Now, the main character, I know I haven't said the name because it's time to embarrass myself with pronunciation. Her last name is easy to say, but her first name, I think it's Bibiana. It's Bibiana, and then her last name is Lopez Yang. To I respect her parents' heritage. But the first name Bibiana, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I do apologize. If you know how to say it, please let me know down below because I suck. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I want to see how she's going to tie in overall to the supermassive universe. At some point, she's probably going to interact with some of the other characters, and that's great. And I'm again happy to see somebody outside of the big two is trying to expand a universe. But they're doing it in a way that if somebody new comes into just a character, they don't feel completely left out because they haven't read the other stories. They understand they're building a universe, but they want to bring in new fans. So to come into this, you want to be able to jump in at a starting point. So each character feels like a starting point so far that I've read. Again, over time, that's probably going to change as it starts to expand more and the characters do more together. But, I think Image is off to a good start with this. There's others who are also now building their own universes. There's competition, DC Marvel. Get your game. Get back on your game. We'll see if that ever happens. But yeah, so if you're looking for a a character is very very flawed. I need to sleep. The Dead Lucky is really interesting. Again, they do a really good job of balancing out why the ethnicity is important to the story. Also, giving a starting point for new fans to jump into a character and also a universe. I like the fact that this main character has a lot of baggage, because that's always my thing. I hate characters that seem to come off too perfect, that never seem to fail. Right? But yeah, I think it makes the character more interesting because they have more obstacles to overcome. Not only do they have to overcome whatever they're dealing with the villain, but also like their own mental or maybe home life obstacles. In this case, this character is both. So, yeah, I do recommend The Dead Lucky. Check out your comic book store if it's still available. I'm going to definitely put this in my pull list and see where it goes. Hopefully it keeps the course. Keep on heading uphill, not dive down. Yeah, I need coffee. But yes, The Dead Lucky, I do recommend it, so please check it out. If you have any comments, please go ahead, write down there below. Any suggestions for Image? Is there a certain character in the Supermassive universe that you are a big fan of? Is there anything else you recommend? Is there any other universes outside the big two I might not be checking out? I know about a lot in manga, but tell me more about in comic books, okay? So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We are almost to 500 subscribers, so please, please, if you haven't already, subscribe and like and share. Tell everybody about my channel. Hopefully, I'm going to have another live stream coming up next week with my fellow manga tubers to talk manga stuff. So I hope you check that out. I'll also have another review and another indie comic. So have a good night, and I will see you in the next video.